We all know this. So young guys, smart guys, some of them advise me all the time, sir, why do you buy DVDs and CDs? It's all downloadable on the net, right? So I'm the only stupid guy paying for things. So there is a change. I just want to make a quick point on this. So what are we saying? If we are talking about being number one, we are talking about very high scalability and penetration. Now, you want to be very scalable, you want to penetrate, you want everybody to look at you. That means, the second point is, you probably need to create an opportunity to deliver greater customer value. There has to be some uniqueness. All news which appears in the newspaper, as all of us know, is at least 12 hours old, right? We've seen it on TV, we've seen it on somebody's blog, we've seen it everywhere. So there is no news for us. So the question is that if we are in traditional media, then we got to do something more than just inform people. People now, I think, I am a consumer, so I can say that. And there are some excellent journalists sitting here. We only look at a discerning eye through the commodity of news. We are looking for definitive reporting. We are looking for a degree of objectivity. We are looking for a degree of perception which comes out of somebody's deep knowledge in a certain area. In other words, there is scope now to differentiate much more than before, because everybody can know everything in just a tap that they make on a screen. Which brings us to the last point, that if we ever want to look at number 1, 2, 3, the single most important objective is to avoid commoditization. And therefore, very, very knowledgeable journalists who have lived their life on the road, who have seen a lot, understood the kaleidoscope of this country, have a lot to deliver, and I think there will be some stars and not just commodity as we all think. More the platforms, more will there be hunger and probably some appetite to pay for discerning reporting and analysis. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm going to turn to Anant Jiniwar, towards whom I could be a bit partial because, like me, he has a theatre background. And he recently won the Best Playwright Award for one of his plays. For Anant, it has been a difficult journey, I'm saying. He won't need to agree. But he started with, he set a completely different standard of anchoring news programs, when he was with the Janashri channel. He's now with Suvarna News. And I have spoken to him in private, which I'm betraying now, that he's completely distressed about this need to be number one, need to be reductionist with sensationalizing news and sending it in 3 words, because that's all that fits on the screen. Breaking news and 3 words, and he's been very distressed about it. He tried to set high standards actually in his previous channel, where they did not allow astrology, programs, for instance, super programs of Vastu or whatever. I'm sorry, the rubbish stuff that comes, So he must actually elaborate a bit on the distress, because while Dr. Raghunath is giving a wish list, the problem for us is who is going to deliver that? How shall we deliver that wish list? That is the problem. So I'm going to ask.
I don't have a presentation to make, but still I would like to stand up and speak, because I want to stand up to whatever I speak. We hear that sound from there. This is what news genre is going through today. Entertainment is a bigger theater. Entertainment is happening at a bigger theater now. We are playing out at a smaller theater. It's a small world. And very often we need to outshout entertainment to be heard. We need to be loud. We need to be sensationalizing to beat competition from entertainment. Probably this applies only to regional language news channels, maybe not so much for English news channels, because English audience, I believe, are not hooked to 8 to 10 p.m. serials, mega serials, never-ending serials. So we are competing with entertainment, and at the same time we are giving out news, and we want to be heard, we want to be seen. Prakash gave me the topic of ownership of media, you know, especially political ownership, political leaders owning news channels. May I dare say, you know, I have worked with a channel that was owned by a politician. I think I should say with conviction that a channel owned by a politician is far less dangerous than a surrogate proxy channel. At least you know what to expect from this channel. You know who the owner is. You know who what the owner's point of view is. You can always take the news emanating from such a channel with a pinch or a bucket of salt, you know, according to your own conviction, your own viewpoint. So the moment I know who the owner of the channel is, who the owner of the newspaper is, I am prepared mentally to either accept or reject the news. But what about media whose ownership is not disclosed at all? It's not in the public domain. So I am of the view that as long as the ownership of media is there in the public domain, we need not have to worry at all whether it belongs to a politician or a real estate businessman or a media baron. It doesn't matter. What matters is to hold on to your own when you are working for a channel owned by a politician. See, journalism is not all about politics. Politics is not be all end all of journalism. You know, there is so much more to it, so much more. In any channel, you know, whether it is owned by a businessman or a politician, the pressure is usually on the top line, in the top 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 journalists. The other journalists are not going to feel the pressure. You know, they are, made immune to it. They're protected from it because it is the top line that has to take responsibility for deliverables. If this top line believes in itself, if the top line has the conviction to convince the promoter that doing a channel, building a channel in a particular way is going to reward him in the long run, may not be politically but business wise, we can hold on to our own. I'm speaking from personal experience. As Prakash said, I was heading a channel called Janashri that was owned by a politician. When I took up the assignment, I had this dilemma. The dilemma was whether I was going to compromise my journalistic ethics for the sake of an opportunity. Then I decided I would take it up, if only to prove that despite working for a channel that is owned by a politician, you can still give out credible news. This, to a large extent, we were able to achieve. Essentially because political credibility of the news that I give out was always questionable in the minds of the audience because they knew who was behind the channel. So the challenge for me was to overcome this limitation of being always looked at with suspicion. How do I do that? Basically, it's very simple. If you ask me, if you have the conviction, you can do it. Take the focus away from politics, right? The moment a politician's channel is talking about politics, you are looked at with suspicion. I take politics out of the equation. There is more to journalism. There is more to, uh, basically, there are a lot of human interest issues which usually escape you know, attention. There are a lot of issues that directly, you know, affect us, the common man. If you take up those issues, you are still true to your profession without actually compromising on the interests of the promoter. See, today, as V. Raghavan was you know, explaining earlier, it's a business. You know, we all need money. We all need money to live. I know I cannot you know, just be working out of passion and not earn anything. How do I get my money? My money has to come from advertisers. And the advertising community is not going to look kindly at a channel owned by a politician. You know, monies are not going to come easily because credibility is an issue. Then how do we make it profitable? I need to make this channel profitable. I need to make this a business model that works for my promoter. At the same time, I retain my credibility. This is a great challenge, but I overcame it by, you know, creating products that were individually saleable. You know, I have a television channel is a bouquet of products apart from news. News is also there, but take the focus away from hardcore political news and create products that my sales team can take out to the market and convince the advertisers that here is a brand that you can proudly associate yourselves with. That's what we did. Newspaper, you know, there was reference to newspaper. Prakash was talking about it. You know, Prakash was saying Gandhiji used to run 8 publications. If I'm a print journalist, if I can muster about 10 to 12 lakh rupees, I can start my own newspaper. I cannot do that with a television channel. A journalist can never own a television channel. Never. So we have to depend on businessmen, we have to depend on media barons, we have to depend on politicians to start channels. Today, of about 120 odd news channels in India, 1/3 belong to various politicians. All these you know, 40 odd news channels may not survive in the long run because politicians come to news channel for 2 reasons. A, to influence. B, if possible, make some money. You know, most of the time, in the long run, news channel is, you know, they'll discover. They'll discover, like many other industrialists who came into media earlier. You know, the biggest of names, including the Ambanis, who came to media, who had to go out burning their fingers. Like them, politicians will also discover in the long run that it is not a viable business option if they are not going to make it neutral and credible. That day is going to come. You know, till such time, we have the luxury of watching all the channels. We have the luxury of getting to know all the points of views from all politicians and also so-called neutral channels, which unfortunately do not always remain neutral. But news in such a scenario becomes, unfortunately, entertainment. The good thing is the common man is wiser than we think. You know, common man is not going to be influenced by whatever I say, whatever I do. Common man has his own intelligence, and they're going to judge us. They're going to judge us by our work. I think that's it. Thank you.
Actually, I'm tempted to ask Akar Patel to respond to this, but I'm going to let him have the last word. You know, it is a tight place, as Anant has just explained. And because, you know, unlike most professions, I'm not saying it happens only to journalism, but it's one of the few professions where you have a personal moral responsibility as well, apart from a corporate or organizational responsibility. Let me mean it this way. Supposing you're working in a bomb-making factory, say a factory that makes chemical weapons, you can still function under the illusion that you're an ethical person. You can pay your taxes, get to work on time, be very hardworking, but you can believe you're ethical. But actually journalism, at least for thinking journalists, it does not allow that room. That luxury is not there. So it is a complicating question for us. And Maya Sharma, who's been a face we all know, who sort of represents what is decent in our journalism, whom we have seen for many years now, I want to ask her, she's been there for some time now, and with one channel, with NDTV, I want to ask Maya Sharma, apart from whatever else you were going to say, can we keep that personal ethical agency in operation in such a tight place?
Prakash, and yes, I don't work in a chemical weapons factory, which is a very, very fortunate thing indeed. Yes, the personal role in a larger channel as well. I just first like to get to the issue of, yes, we all want to be number one. We've been talking about number one in terms of business, in terms of viewership, in terms of advertising revenue, which is of course hugely, hugely important. But we also want to be number one in another way. We want to be the channel, the reporter who you believe, who you think, okay, if that channel is saying that, if that reporter is saying that, it's true. That is a very different number one. It doesn't always translate into numbers because many times viewers want to see something which is a little more sensational, a little more extreme. But that is a different definition of number one, the number one channel. If you can feel that people will say, if they have said it, if he has said it, if she has said it, it must be true. They must have checked their facts. So that is a different number one, which I think also goes to the individual thing also. You do not, politically owned channels, yes, of course, will have their definite pressures. But you cannot, if you want to sleep well at night, you cannot give in to certain things or go against or say something you know which isn't true. Because it is your own credibility on the line. Journalism, as Prakash was saying earlier, is a place where it's you, the individual. You are out there as well. You're not manufacturing something in a factory. You're not working on a software code where nobody knows who you are. In journalism, people know you. So it's your reputation on the line as well. Having said that, we want to be the channel that you watch when you go home in the evening and want to catch up on the day's news. But is there a real differentiation between these channels? Now, I'm restricting myself largely to English news channels, of course. Is there any major differentiation? I think as a reporter in the Bureau, I'm sure many other people who have worked elsewhere outside Delhi as well would agree, that our own channels seem to keep a very, very close eye on what the competitor is telecasting, what the other channels are doing, what are they saying, what are they reporting. Sometimes you feel an even closer eye than what you're reporting yourself because, we get calls saying, but this channel is carrying this, and I'm saying, yes, but I did report that 1 hour ago. But the attention to other channels, the desire not to be left behind, does make a kind of uniformity. If you turn on a channel at prime time, chances are you may find the same topic being discussed by the same set of people, and miraculously enough, the same person may apparently be live in 2 different studios at the same time. That's the magic of television. We won't go into how that happens. So it's big news. It's big news. If the other channel has it, it's big news. If you have it and they don't have it, is it really big news? But if they have it, it's like a catch-22 situation. If they already have it, you're already too late. So it's really kind of a difficult act to follow. And if another channel carries a story, then your own channel will want to cover it too. So what happens is there is that kind of uniformity that sets in, that if we are covering the Modi rally live, that other channel will definitely cut to the Modi rally live, or the Rahul Gandhi rally, or whatever. It's like you will get mails flying around saying, get onto it, cut it live. So that uniformity is there. So how do you differentiate really at number one? So as part of the question you'd asked me to talk about, we may have 100 channels, but are we getting 100 different points of view? Probably not. Probably not. Like, if there are politically owned channels, then yes, especially in Tamil Nadu, maybe you're getting very definite political views. But in terms of channels who are aspiring to be neutral, trying to be neutral, pretending to be neutral, you may find that there is a similarity across the board, really. Now, another big change in news is that it is very anchor-driven. Prime time has become very anchor-driven. It's who they're talking to in the studio. with the result that field reporting, there's just much less of it. There are fewer reporters out there in the country, fewer reporters across the channels across the country, which means fewer stories as we used to understand television news stories. Again, I may be old-fashioned, I've been in this business for a long time, but how many times do you turn on the television at prime time and see visuals, see a story being told from a region, physically from a place itself, or do you more likely see a politician or a political group discussing what has happened? So where is the chance there really for the old-fashioned style of investigative reporting, in-depth reporting, the deeper kind of reporting? Where is the space for that? Very often stories on prime time are there because they fit into a discussion which the prime time anchor may want to talk about that day. If they're talking about Modi versus Rahul campaigning styles, you may do a story which fits into that and the discussion goes across. If they're choosing a different subject altogether, then you may have done a story on a similar line, but it may not get telecast at prime time, which is not a great position for reporters to be in. If a politician wants to make a revelation or say something sensational, they may want to do it on a primetime network. So why would they want to give any important information to a reporter on the field? So while there is still a place for reporters, for deep investigative reporting, it's not on prime time right now at this stage. Things have changed, but television news, like everything else, is in a state of flux. Change is the only constant, as Preet was saying. This is where it is now. It will change once again. And online news, for example, as you were saying, has already made such inroads that if you want to see news about a certain subject, you will find it if you look for it. So it's changing the definition of prime time. It's changing the definition of what you can watch when you want to watch it. Now, I don't want to sound too cynical. The media, to a large extent, television journalism, television channels, are to a large extent still fulfilling their dream role, perhaps, of being a watchdog, of keeping an eye on things, of making people accountable. You've seen it in the big stories recently, from Jessica Lal to the Delhi rape case, where there was a genuine outrage that was reflected around the country, to the floods in the Himalayas, where people were made aware of what was going on. And there where channels work together, there where all the channels focus on the same